with. I think this one's really hardcore. I like how hardcore this one is. It's got like kind of.
Yeah. Even the beat is somehow Afro beat. So
It feels real, right?
yeah, Afro beat.
The young man can never see, even when he climbs up in a tree. What a may cover the footprint on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth.
I like that beat.
Until lions have their own historians. Accounts of the hunt will always celebrate the hunter. Africast, Abiza.
Africast. Isn't it? I feel like there should be more. Why aren't there more Africast? Like, is that complicated of an idea? It seems like Africast is really important. I'm really grateful to know you. I'm really grateful you're alive. It's awesome to see you. It's been a while. I know your life has been crazy. Crazy doesn't even begin to understand the kinds of things that you've been going through since the last time you were on the show. I remember the last time no, you weren't even on the show at that moment. Like, you went down, you drove on this crazy adventure, and you had to stay in the cheapest room you could find, which was filled with mosquitoes, and then you nearly died because of that. I mean, you've just been through so much, like, and that's a long time ago now. You're probably like, oh, that was so long ago. I've been through way worse things since then.
To be honest with you, I really appreciate this friendship with you, and it goes a long way in my life, and I really appreciate every single conversation.
I as well.
It's been almost 5 years now since I know you. 5 years, because I can remember since 2020. Yeah, we've been friends since 2020. And
since COVID, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we are off and on, but at least we still have time to spend together sometime. So I'm very, very grateful, and I appreciate it a lot. Every single conversation. I
appreciate them too.
I take it very serious, and I hope that someday I will see you. You
will,
sure.
Bro. We're gonna have to, like, I don't know whether it's gonna be in America or Nigeria, or if we have to buy our own island. But I think that the best bet is we get 100 subscribers to go take over a British Commonwealth island, and then they have to give us tax money. I've started looking into it, so we'll figure it out. But
we'll get there. I hope you can understand my English. The Nigerian local English is somehow very difficult to understand. So sometimes I'm even thinking maybe you understand my English or not. So
I understand you. I'm sure in the comments, if somebody comes from a place where they aren't as familiar with your particular accent, they can put up a question mark and I can try to explain or something like that. But for the most part, I think people can understand you. You're pretty clear. I don't know, man, because, like, for me, I totally understand you. At this point, I wonder if somebody in, like, Texas, or maybe someone in, like, Eastern Europe who's new to English, I wonder if they have, the regional dialect is that different. What I would say is you have a huge vocabulary. So you know words a lot of Americans might not know because you're so well educated. I think that might surprise people, but you have a university philosophy degree. You've studied Hegel. You understand the dialectic. I don't think every American knows what a dialectic is, right? So...
yeah,
you were lucid. Abbott says you were lucid. I think that's a correct word. Yeah.
Yeah, despite the situation in Nigeria, we just still have to, struggle to educate ourselves, to the best of our ability. And I must say that despite the situation, the knowledge of philosophy that I've garnered over the years has been keeping me going, I'm not where I'm supposed to be yet. I'm not where I think I should be. But alhamdulillah, I'm happy that at least I'm here today, and I believe that the better days are ahead of me, and I don't give up. I keep pushing, and I try as much as possible to make sure that despite the pressure around and the inflation and so many situations around, I keep my head up and I try to. Although it's difficult for me to study these days because of the pressure,
Right.
When
It's hard to have time to study. Plus, I mean,
yeah,
right now for him to be on this conversation with us in the nighttime, he has to go buy a battery to have a light on so that he can even be out of the dark, right?
yeah.
Systematic curfew.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but we don't give up. We just have to keep pushing. We have to
Right.
keep, yeah.
I
You
mean,
know,
Crypto Alchemist has an interesting question about that, right? Like, so on one hand, immigration. So he's in Canada. Canada loves immigration, as far as I don't know if they love it when I say that, but I think they do. The thing about immigration is, if I know now because of you, more and more I meet Nigerian people, and invariably the Nigerians that I interact with are brilliant. They can speak multiple languages, and they're really they're wise people, and they're hardworking, right? So you'll find people that I'm meeting people that can program video games in Nigeria, right? So there's all sorts of people in Nigeria. But if because the infrastructure is terrible, to buy a battery to need to use a light is crazy, right? They've done this. There's somebody controlling Nigeria to make sure they can exploit you and everybody they can, so that they can have their family have scarcity based monopolies for wealth. If you leave Nigeria to go to Canada, people like you, educated people, there are less people in Nigeria that can fight against that. How do you feel about that? About refugees,
you know, being in Nigeria these days, goes with a lot of things. You understand, because of leadership problem that we have in the country right now, and the situation in the country have pushed many people to be doing a lot of crazy things, and some people consider running away or migrating from their country to be, the last solution to the problem, because sometimes, in the course of the struggle, trying to, even do your legitimate things, you can get killed, maybe by terrorists or by, things like
it's
that.
serious stuff. Yeah, people are.
Yeah.
I just want to also remind people. Recently, there was a prison in Nigeria that had, I think, something like 200 or 300 serious terrorists from all over the country, and a van came through, blew up the wall, and got them all out. And then they went on a killing spree of everyone who had informed on them.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
there's a lot of death and a lot of murder, and a lot of, if you stick your neck out, you're gonna get seen sticking your neck out.
It's crazy, bro. And I can assure you that Nigeria is a very large country. Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, the most populated country in Africa, and is one of the multicultural and
Super
very
diverse.
very, very diverse culture we have here. So
not just between Muslims and Christians either. Like, you've got multiple tribes. Yeah.
Tribe. There are so many other religions that you might not know, but they exist here in Nigeria. Yeah. So it's a very complicated and complex country to live in. It's a very complex one.
Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, maybe give some examples of some, or I don't know if you can think of some like interesting cultural, like unique things that exist in Nigeria that people might not even think about.
Like I am from Edo State, Benin City. I am Benin by tribe. Benin is located in the southern part of Nigeria, Niger Delta part of Nigeria, where you have crude oil. Yeah, so I hear from that. So in that region, you find a lot of culture and so many minority religious group existing in that particular culture.
Because the
Like,
Benin is like a bigger name and there's smaller, diverse parts of it, or
yes, Benin is one of the minority group, ethnic group in Nigeria. So, and they have their unique religion, their traditional religion, very unique to them. Despite the fact that they have so many Christian dominated area around them, but they are very traditional and they are very spiritual people. So I hear from that particular culture. And then when you look up to the north, you find out that the majority of the people, they are Muslims. And when you go to the west, the majority, are also Muslims, and in the east, you have Christians, dominated area. So because of that, you find out that people have different interests in the country. Some clamor for Islamic State, some clamor for, you have heard the issue of Biafra, some even claiming that they are from Israel, that they are of Jewish origin. If you are
interesting.
if you are following the story of Biafra, the liberation of Biafra land, in the southeast, there is a particular ethnic group in Nigeria known as the Igbo tribe.
Let's explain that a bit. So I don't know much about Biafra. I know that it existed kind of briefly. I mean, but it's still, you're saying it kind of still exists, and that's interesting because I've been basically lied to my whole life. Then tell me about Biafra.
Yes, there is a secessionist group in that area right now. I mean, they had a leader known as Dim Odimegu Ojukwu, who in the year 1969 or so, or thereabout,
in the late 60s, looks like 67.
Yes. So they declared the Republic of Biafra because they felt they were being marginalized by the northern Nigerian. So they felt marginalized, so they declared they are independent.
Now, was this because were they Christian, or were they Muslim, or was this not even about that?
Yeah, majority of them, they are Christians, but a handful of them also claim to be Jews. They say they are Jews. Yeah, they
so they're the Beta Israelites.
Yeah, they believe that somebody migrated from Israel to this particular land known as Biafra land and established a culture there. So they believe that they cannot coexist with the Muslims of the Islamic community, and they are agitating for their own political independence.
Wow.
And as I speak with you, their current leader, known as Nnamdi Kanu, is currently in prison here in Nigeria. He was arrested. He was arrested in Kenya and brought to Nigeria. Now he's been tried. And in his region, every Monday they declare public holiday, no working day, to honor the people that have lost their life in the course of the struggle.
Wow.
So a lot of things.
But for right now, Biafra is conquered by Nigeria, essentially.
Yes, they are part of Nigeria. They are conquered by Nigeria, but they are still resisting the government of Nigeria.
Interesting. I didn't realize they were pushing that hard still. That's another fascinating thing. So, like the Black Israel in Nigeria.
They have their own established armed army that they are using to combat. Yeah, to combat the Nigerian army.
Dude, I had no idea that's amazing. That's something we don't see. Again, it's crazy how little news gets broadcast here, that we don't hear about this. But that's really interesting. Biafra has still got an air force.
As I speak with you, in that region, people die every day because of this agitation. The army and the local.
So there's a holy war. There's a literal holy war for the Jewish, Black Jewish state in Nigeria now.
Yeah. And it's a very serious one. That's
incredible.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And
that's definitely something I didn't know about. I was not. I mean, I'd heard of Biafra, but that's still going on and people are dying over it, and they have an air force. Is there's something to that? We got to look into that deeper, and also where are they getting their
yeah,
finances and their military equipment?
yeah. And let me tell you this: in Nigeria, you must understand that every region in Nigeria have their own armed group that they are using to fight the federal government. Like I am from the Niger Delta, the oil-rich region of the Nigerian state.
So oil
And
rich means having weapons.
yes, Niger Delta, you find oil in my own region. And because the locals, they are feeling that they are not having the fair share of the national cake, they set up their armed group, the militants, militant that they are using to fight against the federal government. So it is one war from one war to another in Nigeria. In fact, if you want to get the government to listen to you in Nigeria at all, you need to have a gun. You have to know that you have to use violence. It is violence for violence.
Well, that is that's what voting is, right? Voting is violence, and the idea of having nuclear weapons is having a say. That is the system that it's not Nigeria's fault. That's just the way the world works, right? Like the
it's a war system.
Yeah.
It's a, in fact, the present government of Nigeria is making, just last year, when the last time we spoke, $1 to naira as at that time was 1,000 naira. That was last year. Last year, yeah, was 1,000. But as I speak with you now, $1 to naira is around 1,500, 1,600 to 1,700.
So the inflation is just crazy. I mean, it's pretty bad here, but it's worse in Africa, and it's been that way.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. If
you can't save money. You have to spend money as soon as you get it. You have to get it and spend it that hour because it's up at the end of the day.
And now we work just to feed. We can't single save to So it's as if we are stuck, even in the place where we work, because they pay you your salary and you use it to feed. Sometimes it's not even enough for you to feed. You have to borrow money, for you to feed, so that when they pay you your next salary, you go and pay the person selling the grains. Then you continue like that and like that. So it's a very crazy world out here. That is why you see some people who are not patient enough, they have to engage in fraudulent activities. People who do not have the dignity and the integrity to withstand suffering, so they resort to engaging in criminal activities. Like we spoke of the Nigerian prince that is all over the internet trying to defraud people of their hard-earned money.
You just have to meet the right Nigerian prince, like yourself. I think that's what they don't understand, right?
Yeah,
like Abiza sends me thousands of bitcoins all the time. No, I was
kidding. So it's crazy. In Nigeria, you have the good, the bad, and the ugly. People here, crazy people.
I've seen some pretty cool things. So the idea that someone practices hacking with a computer and magic, that they do like a spell before they get on the internet to that's really interesting.
Yes, there are some places in the village where these guys come around. They go and see some chief priests who are into voodoo, who are into African magic. So they do magic for them so that anything they ask somebody to do, that is exactly what you are going to do for them. So they are not doing it because I believe that the way knowledge has spread all over the world, it will be difficult for you to defraud a sane person, somebody who is not crazy, somebody who is not mad. It will be difficult. So what they do is that they cast a spell on the person to make sure that the person, lose his own sense of reasoning before they act what they want to do. So it's very
Find
crazy.
Somebody who's already crazy out there. Yeah.
Yeah. And these people, they do what we call ritual, money ritual. Have you heard of money ritual?
Yeah, but what is the money ritual? Tell us about it.
Yeah, money ritual is when you you take a life, you use life
It could be a
as
chicken. It might be as little as chicken feet, so you can get phone minutes. You know.
no, you have to use something very close to you, like your mother, your brother. You sacrifice
Oh, for the
somebody
real.
somebody that you love so much. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they say for you to get rich, you have to sacrifice the person you love the most. Maybe your mother, your father, or somebody, your wife. Then you kill the person, you sacrifice the person to the gods. They will ask you to do some spiritual something, and then even if you are selling just no matter how little the business you are doing, money will be flowing into your account like magic. So
Right.
it is real, man. It is real. People do that, and I believe that some people that think those things are not real, knowledge exists in levels, knowledge is in stages. So metaphysics is very real, and people manipulate nature to to get what they want. They
Yeah.
manipulate nature to get.
Crypto alchemist not quite understanding, so I'll just try to explain a little bit more. So like the idea of you sacrifice the life of someone very close to you who you love is,
Yes.
you see celebrities that have been accused of this, let's say, quite a bit in the West. It's not just some sort of, but even there are celebrities that have gone to Africa and have been accused of going specifically for this particular taboo ritual, right? Probably best not to mention names, but the idea that what is life worth, Abiza? Why is it that you would sacrifice the life of someone you love? Like, who's taking that life? Like, what
It's
is the
crazy.
Death Eater thing? I mean, there's probably something to it. Something is not just eating life; it's eating the death of life itself, right?
While I was growing up, I told you I lost my father at a very tender age. I was raised by my single mother, and I happened to be the last born of my parents. So at my early age, I was very, very brilliant in school. I was very brilliant, and I realized that there was this pressure on us, because of the environment we grew up from.
Of course.
You have to go out, you have to make money, you have to come home, primarily to come and feed the people who have sent you to school. So the purpose of going to school is for you to go and get the knowledge, make money, and come back, and so because of that, when people graduate from school, when they are not able to meet up with that kind of responsibility, they engage themselves in some kind of fraudulent act. So it takes a very
Interesting.
strong mind, a very strong soul to say, no, I'm not going to do that, no matter how tough it is. Let me tell you, if I show you my phone just some while ago, my mother calling me. I did not pick, because when I pick, she will complain about her health, and all that. And since there's no money to take her to the hospital, I will just pretend I'm not with my phone. I didn't hear that. Because if I
Wow.
listen to the complaint and I cannot do anything about it, I will not be able to sleep. It will hurt
Yeah.
me more.
It's
So the best thing,
Schrodinger's suffering.
so the best thing is for me not to listen at all. So it's crazy, but
It's crazy.
notwithstanding, I am very, very resilient, and I am sure that whatever it is, I'm going to survive it. And
Right.
I'm not also anxious about getting what I want to. I am not anxious about that at all. I'm very, very, I believe that the human dignity, the human integrity, what it means to be a human being, is beyond, you know, making money and fame and all that.
But you
So,
believe in spirits, right? Like you believe there's a good and a bad or something to that effect? Or what do you believe about, like, what are people sacrificing their loved ones to? And what is the alternative?
pardon?
Like you're saying people are sacrificing their loved ones so that they can get
Yeah,
rich.
yeah.
What is the evil accusing spirit, or what side of reality is that are there evil spirits and witches, and what is it that they're getting
Yeah.
power from?
There, there are evil spirits responsible for that. You understand? If you go to some villages in Africa, you find out that there are territorial demons or spirits, like spirit or demon that are peculiar to a particular, culture or to a particular people. So people manipulate those demons and do a lot of things to, get what they want. So, but again, there is implication for it. There are so many consequences that come with it, because once you start making sacrifice to the demons, you have to keep it up. You understand? So they keep demanding from time to time. They keep demanding. Sometimes they ask you to go and sleep with your mother. You have sex with your mother. They do a lot of crazy things. Yeah. So they will do it to the point that maybe you will not be able to meet up with the demand again. And that is when you see some young boys, they run mad in the street. They become crazy. They make them mad, and they make them, sometimes they die in a very mysterious way and all that. So it's a crazy thing.
So what
Yeah.
do you think, like, and then what do you think about good spirits, right? Like, is there a, like, unified godlike good spirit, or are there a bunch of also just archetypical good spirits, or what's the alternative?
Yes. One thing about me, despite the fact that I'm a religious man and I believe in the conventional faith, but I always believe that God is not a person. You understand? Yeah.
Right, totally.
So he's not a person. Some
Like
people
there
think
might
that,
even be like gods underneath this source thing that's even bigger than God, like the Allah or whatever it is
yeah,
might be. There
yeah,
might be something above everything. Yeah, I
yeah.
hear you.
So I sometimes the best way for me to describe God is like a force, and you can use, for example, karma. Karma is a force. So good spirit, they are also like force. Force is like sometimes when you do something wrong, it might happen to you and come back to you in another way that you don't even expect. You understand? So, and when you are a good person, so once you are a spiritual person, you should not think that you are going to be rewarded even in this physical world that we are. You understand? You know what happened to Socrates when he was being executed with poison, hemlock.
Right.
Socrates. So people were lamenting. They were asking him, "Why don't you escape from this prison?" And then he that was about to die was telling them, "Why do you think that this world is better than where you are going to when you die?" It,
Right.
it,
Which is pretty
it might
wild for
even,
Socrates. I mean, because some people take that to mean like this world's so terrible that I'm being killed through democratic process, but really he's
yeah.
saying like, right.
People are so into this world. People are so concerned about this world because they believe that there is no better place. Even some people that think that there is a better place, they are not sure if there is a better place. So that is why sometimes, are you with me? Yeah, yeah. So that is why
Just muted.
sometimes, yeah. So that is why sometimes you find people, even when they say they believe in God, but in their actions, they don't really act as if they believe.
There's some to this, man. Let's do a quick Jewish thing because you brought up the Jews of Nigeria. So you know the menorah. In Kwanzaa, I don't think you guys do that because we Americans made it up, but it's based on the menorah is the Hanukkah ritual for the Jews, and what they do around Christmas time is the Jews will light these candles one night in a row, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
these candles represent, well, Asherah, but also they represent before the Deuteronomists, before Abraham, when Elohim, the word Elohim, it actually is for God in the Bible. If you're familiar, Elohim is plural, and it's for multiple God, as opposed to Eloi, you say Elohim. So in the Bible, the God will say, for instance, let us make man in our image, in plural, right? And
yeah,
at some point in the Tower of Babel, God says we have to stop letting them get so close to us, right? And also they're talking to themselves. So either God is this crazy schizophrenic, or God is Elohim is plural. It's multiple. And so the idea of the pantheon, really, that Elohim, the Jewish pantheon, was originally a family, and the family was the father and the mother and the children, and like there's a feminine and a masculine, like daughter and a son as well. Like there's the reprint of this, but originally the family was represented through the idea of the Elohim, and then there's this source which is the Hashem Yahweh, the Yod He Vav, which is the energy, like you're talking about, like the Tao or karma, the source that everything comes from. But that below that, there still are things that we would consider gods, right? Which is interesting because there's something above what is mortal man and something below what is like Allah or the Elohim, right? Oh, he froze. I was wondering because he was so chill about it, so I figured he must have frozen. You know what I'll do for a second though, because I have more Africast music. Abiza. Africast. It's gonna be big. Abiza. All of these are Nigerian proverbs. If a man is not sold by his own household, he cannot be defeated outside.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think the network.
It's all right. I was just playing.
Problem.
I was just playing the Africast theme song. I think it worked out. Well, just the idea that there might be a source, Elohim, Allah thing, the karma, the Tao, right above it all, and then there are still something that's beyond mortal man. And there's a lot of are there gods in like multiple gods and pantheons of families of gods in Bini culture?
Yes, of course. There are so many gods in the Benin culture. In fact, every aspect of nature has its own gods. That is in charge of that aspect, and there is the overall, the head gods. The gods of all goddesses. Yes, just the way you have the Greek gods, where Zeus happen to be the head of the gods. So we also have that. When you plant, as a farmer, there is a god you pray to if you want your crops to do well. And if you are a teacher, whatever you do, there is always a particular god that you have to pray to so that you succeed in that thing that you are doing. So it is a very, very complex something that you have to learn it, because you must know the God that you pray to at a particular time. You have to know the God that you are praying to and know how to pray to that God at a particular time. Like, if you are living in a riverine, community, the God of the water, Olokun, if you have heard of the word Olokun, the God of the water, you know that, yes, that is the God that you pray to. In fact, it becomes the territorial God of that particular, community. So even the children that are born in that community, they know that God and they know how to pray to that. So if you leave that community, you go to another community where there are no rivers, so you have to learn about the God of that particular community again. So it's a very complex and complicated world. So we really don't, the idea of the Abrahamic faith, you have one God who supersedes everything, Yes, we also have that, but in different aspects. Despite the fact that there is one God, the Benin culture, they believe that this God have assigned different other gods, like demigod, some smaller God, to oversee, so many aspects of reality. So that is what we believe. as
Well,
a people.
the Mormons would be completely fine with that. There are definitely Christian religions that believe in that, and the idea that Abrahamic faith started out, like we said, about
Yeah.
plural Elohim, and there got to a Deuteronomist point of monolatry for Yahweh, where they're like, well, we got to get rid of all of the other Canaanite pantheon. It's interesting because it sounds to me like there is a unifying thing here, and we're seeing it still in Nigeria and Africa, because you're saying it's even kind of similar to the Greek pantheon. But how do you
Very,
describe the superb supreme source? You know, the leader of the gods. How is that? How is that particularly in Beni
you know,
culture?
the leader, the supreme being, is the source of life. You know, these other demigod or these other subordinate gods, they cannot create. They cannot create. They can only watch over. They can only be stewards. You know, but they cannot create. But the supreme God is the one that creates. So life emanates from the supreme being. So what happened is that if this demigod, if sometimes they do wrong, the demigod do wrong, the subordinate gods, they can make mistakes. So the supreme God can never make mistake. So sometimes even the supreme God can punish the subordinate gods.
Right.
Do you understand? Like sometimes the subordinate God, they even take side when people are quarreling. Sometimes you can even bribe the the subordinate gods with sacrifices.
Right. Right.
If you are a devious person, maybe the person is a very wicked somebody, the person can perform some rituals and all that, to manipulate the subordinate god into acting in his or her favor. But you cannot manipulate the supreme God. You understand? You cannot manipulate the supreme God. So you
Right. Because
cannot.
it's the system itself. It's the infrastructure itself.
Yeah, it's self-sufficient. That is why sometimes, in the Christian church, when they say, if you give to God, God will give back to you, give and take, pay your tithes and all that, offerings and all that in the church, we believe that it is not the supreme God that is doing that. It is the subordinate God that is doing that. So the
So
idea
that's
of the
really interesting
supreme.
too, because the idea of the supreme God is almost like Spinozian, like it's not interfering with the fate of mankind as much as the demigods and the
Yeah,
lower,
yeah,
they're the ones that do that.
they want to do that. So the supreme God is ever just. So he's not moved by whatever you do. Cannot be moved. So he's always there. In fact, some people
The
believe that,
unmoved mover.
yeah, some people even believe that it is not the supreme God that demand your worship. It's always the subordinate God that demand your worship. Because whether you worship him or not, he's always there and he will still be there. So nothing moving. Just like what St. Thomas Aquinas will call him, the unmoved mover.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was about to say, like, this is the objectively one true God. Like, I hate to be
Yeah.
like that, but I find that exactly the same as any culture that's dug deep enough. So that I felt
Yeah.
your God is the right God. Good job, bro. Well, I have a question
Yeah.
also about the feminine aspect. So, like, we talked a little about the Jewish, because I think again, I kind of believe in like a, Noah's flood, the flood story myth. I kind of believe in this idea that there was like Noah's Ark, and that at
Yeah.
one point the world was flood, but before that we were all a lot more connected. Like Hinduism, Abrahamism, uh, African religious beliefs were all a lot closer together before that flood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
afterwards, a lot of these things have changed. Like Hinduism has changed a lot, but it's also remained the same in ways that Judaism has changed and forgotten. Like each one of them has a little bit of this source. One of the things I was thinking about was Asherah, because we look and we find the wife of God, right? The wife of Elohim, of Yahweh, is this Asherah character, and they had
Yeah.
idols and things like that. Is there something kind of like a wife of God? Do you guys have like it's the father and the mother? Is there like both?
No, my culture is mostly a masculine one. Do you understand? You know,
Yeah.
I would even liken my culture
Same with everybody now.
To the Patagonian mystical school, where they see the feminine as a defection. You know, the Christian believe that the female was never in the plan of God. That it was just
Right. The
because
Christians have made it. Yeah.
that it was never God's plan from the beginning to create the female. That's what they say, that Adam was lonely. Because Adam was lonely, he needed a partner, so they decided to, create the female.
God makes all of the other animals, and when that doesn't work, it's like, all right, I guess I got a plan B. Yeah, which is weird. This is a very weird way to look at it. I agree. Yeah.
So which means if Adam wasn't lonely, if Adam was not feeling lonely, there will be no need for female.
Right, so, which is also the weirdest inversion, because the idea that woman comes out of man instead of man coming out of woman is just this weird inversion. Yeah,
it's really weird. So in my culture, most aspect of our life, even in our social dealings, it's masculinity on the day. Masculinity is what people give, primacy over the femininity. So God, in fact, it is even a taboo for you to even say that God has a wife or God has a feminine aspect, because the God that we have here is always about war. Is always, very feminine, very authoritative, and very all-sufficient. So as somebody who has a wife, sometimes the wife can use emotion to blackmail him and make him do some silly things. That is why I believe if God has a wife, God will do silly things sometimes, because maybe he loves his wife too much, and he can, sway some of his and compromise some of his principles.
Man, what's crazy is that's the Gnostic beliefs, right? So the Christians have a lot of history to them. And the beginning part of the Christian history is just Christians murdering and eating other Christians and drinking their blood and things, right? Like a lot of the Christians were just murdering each other. There's a whole thing in Israel in the Crusades where the Muslims put all their Christians outside the city, but because they were brown, the Christians killed all the brown Christians, right? Because they didn't know what they were Christian. Christians went through a lot of murder and a lot of horrible. But one of the groups that they liked to murder were the Gnostics, and the Gnostics were all about knowledge, and they believed that there was that exact situation you just said, that God, like Yaldabaoth and Sophia, are kind of the masculine and feminine aspects of once this source God thing is divided, then you get from the unmoved mover, you get the masculine and the feminine. And there's definitely some sort of a struggle there, which leads to our struggle. Whatever that we're suffering from is their fault, right? But I don't know. Do you think that? What do you think about that? Because do you think that your culture has had feminine erasure the same way Europeans have had feminine erasure of Christianity? Because clearly the Jews have that ancient goddess. The Jews started out worshiping the father and the mother. So that's also a big part of Hinduism. Hinduism has become more and more masculine, right? Like Brahma, Shiva, like there should be the Mahadevi, but they've kind of not Kali, right? Like there's something kind of missing in the feminine. Do you think it's been erased, or do you think it's just a practical logic?
I think that as I don't know if the philosopher has said that.
Oh, they're gonna get him again. Hold on, I'll do some more Africast.
You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. You can't choose your hand to force the sun to set. You cannot compare the living with the dead. Africast, Abiza, choose your Africast, Africast. You know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. You can't use your hand to force the sun to set. You cannot compare the living with the dead. Africast, Africast, Africast. Africa, Abiza, choose you Africa,
Yeah.
Africast.
Hello?
Good to see you, bro.
Hello?
Hey, bro.
Yeah.
How's it going?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the network problem.
It's not your
Um,
fault. This is clearly the military-industrial complex's fault, and maybe capitalism, but you're fine.
seriously. It's crazy, bro. So like I was saying, you know, I said it is true that it is an injustice to try to make people that are not equal. You understand? So masculinity and femininity, I believe, cannot be equal. And we understand this very well in our culture. We divide reality into two parts. So the women have their place, femininity has its place, and masculinity also has, its own place. Unlike in many Western, world where what they say what a man can do, a woman can do even better. So we do not believe in that principle or that ideology. So everyone has his place. That is what we believe in. That is why even in our spiritual, way of life, even in whatever, even in religion, we also, follow suit. We also follow that principle. So the idea of femininity is, in fact, it has to do with the weak aspect of reality. That is what we believe. So, yeah, so we believe that femininity is a weak aspect of reality. And so to associate a weak aspect of reality to God, to us, we consider it a taboo.
So that's interesting for a couple of reasons. Yeah. So also, could you elaborate on the weakness, like the archetypical idea of feminine weakness, if that's a cultural?
So we believe that since a woman is most of the time emotional, she cannot be a judge. So that is why in most of our communities, even if the person who is supposed to be on the throne is old, as long as she is a woman, she cannot ascend the throne to be the queen. So we always look out for men. It is only when there is a very peculiar problem that you don't have any option, that now say, okay, let the woman or
ascend
the female
throne.
ascend the throne. And even in that case, there will be so many men around her trying to manipulate her, always, making sure
you
that.
You mean like different than the Queen of England? Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. The idea of the Queen of England, for example, we cannot have it here. You cannot have that kind of society here, because, in fact, it will even be you are even abusing the throne, or you are not taking the throne to be serious. So we believe that somebody who's supposed to be in that position has to be a fighter, has to be somebody who is cruel, who is rugged,
Stoic.
things like that. So we always believe that it is only a man that can qualify, to act in that manner.
Well,
so that
all the feminists will be upset, but the Mormons are like, "Whoa, that's pretty similar."
You can see the reason why our feminine, our female, they always prefer the Western, way of life, because like in America, for example, they say the woman has right in the house, in the home. She can choose not to cook, she can choose not to wash, but when you come to Africa, you have to cook. You don't have you must cook.
You will die. Yeah.
So it's crazy. Culture is really relative,
but there are feminine roles. I don't know if the Beni are the same. I know the Yoruba. I was talking to a friend who's in the Yoruba tribe. I know that they have some kind of dual system where women also have they have a matrilineal system as well. So there's men have a say, and then women have a say, and then the community hears. So is there something similar like that? Do women have roles, right? It's not just in the kitchen. They do magic and.
like I said, they have role, but that role is assigned to them by the men.
Like powerful
Eh,
sorcery, though, right? Like you would go to a female witch doctor. Is that a thing?
Yes, yes. You know, if you are heading a very reputable position as a woman or as a female, the truth is that there will be so many men around you affecting your decision. You understand? So maybe you will just be there as a figurehead, but there are so many powers that are influencing your decision. So, but indeed, when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to, a strong spiritual woman, we have so many of the witch doctors. Yeah, witch
Right.
doctors, so many who are female, and they are pretty very, very strong and powerful. But what I'm saying is, in terms of kingship, you know,
Yeah,
it is
being a
very,
king is being a
yeah,
king.
it's very rare for you to find a female. Like if you browse now in so many kingdoms in Africa, especially I speak of Nigeria because that is where I'm sure of. In 90% of the kingdoms we have here in Africa, they are all headed by male, not female.
Yeah,
It's because of this ideology.
that is
So
interesting.
that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, so then the other idea is like the shape and the form of these things. So you're saying like you learn about the water god of one area, and you go to another area into different water god. They have different stories, but
That's
is it
correct.
how different of a, is it a different god, or is it that we have different ways of looking at Poseidon because Poseidon did different things in Greece than he did in Nigeria than he did in Ghana or something? Is it the same Poseidon, the same sea god with different
Yeah.
perspectives, or is it different gods?
A people's experience shape their reality. You
Right.
understand? So it is your experience that will sometimes affect your belief. Like where I grew up is a river area, and sometimes flooding disturb the people. So it is very logical that such a people will think that the most powerful force on earth is water, because that is
Yeah.
their greatest problem, because they are disturbed by flood. So they will be praying to that God that control that flood to help them. Imagine they go to a desert area where there are no water at all. You have never seen flood since you were born, like where I am now in the north. I've never seen a river here. It is
Oh my
almost like a
gosh.
desert. So you will not be scared of water. You will not even care about the God of water because you even think that that one does not exist. Here, what you'll be praying for is you're praying for rain safe to even fall. You understand?
Right.
And the desert wind, that is affecting the environment. So that is how it is. It's not that these people they deliberately want to choose or maybe they have choice. No, it is just their experience.
Right.
Their experience. When I was in school, when I was an undergraduate, one of my lecturer told me that the reason why the West, the Europeans and the Americans, they are ahead of us is because what sometimes most of the time when an African man sees nature, he begin to glorify nature, he begin to adore that nature. But the white man will ask why is this, you understand. So most of our tradition these days, they are actually big question too, you understand. And I believe that we are making progress because the white man, through science and technology, has conquered water. He has conquered the wind. He has conquered everything. You know, you have. If I go to the village, I tell my mother there is something called telephone. That when I'm talking here, I'll be seeing a white man from the United States. She'll be surprised. You understand? She'll be sure. In fact, she will think that this is magic. You know.
Probably
So
is.
yeah, so it is something that you are yet to understand that is God. Once you are able to understand that thing, it will cease to be a God.
Well, that's
And that is
another scary thing, right? So the idea that I've talked about this before, but imagine you try to convert someone to your religion in 100 years, And
Yeah.
you're saying, well, you have to believe in this God to go to heaven. They're like, well, what's a God? They're like, well, it's something that lives forever, has all power, and can be anywhere at once. Well, that's what humanity will be like in 100 years with all of this technology. Already, I can basically be anywhere. Pretty soon, I'll be able to Airbnb into someone's body and take over their body for a weekend, you know, and I'll be able to Google anything and know anything and live forever. So that's kind of what that's like. Then we will be the thing that people think of as gods. But you got to go to heaven. Well, what's heaven? Heaven's a place where there's no one gets sick, people live forever. There's all the food you want. Well, that could be the world if we really tried, you know. So it's I feel like that doesn't leave a lot of room for what we thought of as God, but it does leave room for new things, better things, right? Once we figure out how to do the simple stuff like stop suffering, which seems like it should be more simple than taking all of the time of humanity, but it seems to be.
And you can see with the level of science and technology that the world is, grappling with, you can see that atheists are growing in their numbers every day. Yeah, because sometimes what you don't understand, immediately you understand that thing, you will stop using God to explain it. You understand? So there is a lot. If you read Augustine Comte's Social Evolution, where he spoke of the social evolution of the society, where he talked of man from the primitive stage.
Bro's busting out August Comte. That's pretty based. Good job.
Yeah. Man evolving from the primitive stage to, I think, the religious stage, to metaphysical stage, to scientific stage, and all that. So you can see that is the level we are going right now, because every day you see science trying to explain a lot of things, and a lot of things has been demystified, by science and technology. So it is reducing. In fact, in my community in those days, everybody goes to church or mosques, But these days, people don't even care. Sometimes they just relax and say, no, it is science that can do that, not God, So it's crazy.
How do you feel about your cosmology or your cosmogony? Do you see it as, like we were talking about the water, the precipitation and perspiration from the floods to the rain? Are they the same water god, or are they multiple intelligences that are part of this big system?
Yeah. I will be honest with you. When it comes to cosmology, I try as much as possible not to, find myself too deep into it, because I believe that it will be very, very, it will be useless trying to explain things that are beyond my own existence. You understand? Like people trying to explain how the world began when we were not even there. So I believe that it is guessing and all that. So sometimes I take those things as just stories and all that. So I do not take them very seriously. But in my tradition, you hear stories like in the beginning, a God somewhere, I don't know where the God was before he created that place that he was, do you understand what I said?
Yeah,
have you
the
ever
no
imagined
thing and the nothingness in the beginning before
yeah,
all. Yeah.
So I think they say from nothing comes. So they say in the beginning there was nothing. So where was God before he created something? If he lives in a place, where was he before he created that place that he is living in? Like
Eternal.
when you ask, like when you ask,
eternity, beginnings and endings happen within eternity. So eternity is beyond time, and so time happens within eternity. So time even has cycles and everything that's inside of eternity. So every moment within time is just a space in eternity.
Yeah. That is understandable. Yeah. So the idea of cosmology ontology, they are very, very complicated. And for me, I think that man should focus on himself. You know, what makes Socrates famous was he was the first to direct the philosophical light to man himself. You know, when man was trying to understand the world beyond him, trying to understand heaven, trying to understand the gods and everything above him, when he doesn't even understand himself. So Socrates thought that it was useless trying to understand something that is beyond yourself when you have not even understand yourself. So hence he said, man, know thyself, for the unexamined life is not worth living anymore than the other. So I believe that the world would be a better place if we as humans try to first of all figure ourselves out first.
That's a good
Look
answer.
at, you know,
What do you think
you look
about the
at
self then? Are you a like what is man? Is man a god? Is man an angel? Is man just dirt with breath in it? Is man like are we just evolved primates? Are we the great apes? What is man?
man is the true reality. You understand? Everything that has to do with this planet revolves around man. You know, when we talk about anthropocentric worldview, where everything, even sometimes you can even say that without man, God does not exist. Some people think that without man, God does not exist. Without man, animals do not exist. Without man, nothing exists. Because it is man that is constantly giving these people name or giving these things name. It is man that is constantly deliberating on the life of these things. You know, we have never seen God come down to come and explain himself. It is man that is always deliberating or talking about God. So assuming there is no man, everything will be on its own. Nothing we have that force. So it is man that is giving life to everything. So sometimes people that say man is God himself, they might not be wrong. They might not be wrong. I say that because who is saying that God exists? It is man. Who is worshiping God? It is not the same man. Who is the thing that you are using to worship God? Who created that? It is the same man. But man doesn't understand himself, so he tried to give credit to something outside himself, because even his whole life, it seems like a miracle to him. It marveled him. So he's surprised that, oh, how possible? This cannot be me. Should be something else, you know. So that is how it is. So man himself, at the end of the day, we might take him as the God, because without man, nothing exists. That is what I believe. Without man, nothing exists. So whatever you are talking about now, it is man that is talking about it. So I don't know if goat or lion are discussing about God like this. I don't know. I don't know if animals are doing that. So that is why I think it is man himself. You know, there are some school of thought that believe that it is man that created God. You know, so these are the kind of argument that they give when they say that, and you cannot completely discredit them. You know, it's just like the issue of death. You know, afterlife. You know, man has this inner fear in him. He's scared. He's definitely scared of what is going on, what is going to happen to him. So it is logical for him to fabricate or, you know, cook us something that we, you know, make his mind to be at peace. So there must be a world after this life. If that world does not exist, man will invent that world. That is why they say that if God did not exist, man will definitely invent God, because God is a necessity. He is a necessity indeed. But by and large, if you check what is going on all over the world, who is masterminding everything? Is it not man? It is man that is masterminding it. After masterminding it, he will say it is God. He goes out there and kill people, and he says it is God. You know, so these are the things that we are experiencing all over the world, and that is the reality. And that is why I believe that we should focus on this man. This man. If we are able to focus on this man that is masterminding everything, everything will be clear. We'll be able to understand and deal with the situation. But as long as we keep pointing finger to something beyond man, always, we may never be able to solve the problem. And that is why I respect Elon Musk. He's my hero. I love him so much because you see him.
He's the greatest African American, right? Yeah.
Yeah. You see him trying to do crazy things. People think he's crazy, you know, trying to create another world outside of this world, you know, things like that.
Dude, Elon Musk is pretty good. He did that interview a while ago with Babylon B, where he was saying, oh yeah, he dropped for a second, but you guys know he was saying, you know, what do you believe in God? And he's like, I believe in Spinoza's God. So he used Einstein's quote to the rabbi, which you guys remember, the line from the song I did. Hold on.
I believe in Spinoza's God, who reveals himself in the lawful harmony of the world, not in a God who concerns himself with the fate and the doings of mankind. You know
what I'm saying? That was basically my point. All right, I'm gonna play one more Africast here.
Africast, Abiza.
This is a good tribal one. It feels kind of like
Abiza, Africast, Abiza, Africast.
It gets a little bit more. Here we go.
If a man is not sold by his own household, it can be defeated outside.
If he's not sold by his own household, he cannot be defeated outside. Which African sound, bro? Pan-Africa. Did you literally just say Pan-Africa? Great minds. There's definitely, I'll admit it, there's a lot of West Africa in this. I can hear it. What's up, bro?
Hello.
I feel bad because, like, your whole time you have to hold the light over your head. I gotta get you like a clamp or something. Like,
I have to recharge to plug my phone. I have some power bank with me, so the battery I was trying to reach the.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, yeah, if you're about to lose all your battery and you need more battery, like, we can. How much longer do you want to talk for?
Anything is good.
Okay. Let's do a couple more questions. I don't want to like destroy, like, because you have to buy these batteries, so I feel like it's pretty messed up.
It's fine. This is worth it. This is worth it.
This is worth it. Legit.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a couple of thoughts I want to ask you about, because you were just talking about like humanity, right? And so like it's not the whales, it's not the bees that are running the world. It's man. Yeah. That's a good thing that you said. But like, why is man what is so different about man? Why are we that different than monkeys and from dolphins and from like animals? Why is it not dogs? Why is it not wolves that are running society? Like, is there something, like, what's going on that humanity is what it is? Is it really just that we've, luckily evolved to be so clever?
Yeah, like I said, if we look
feels
closely,
like that God spark.
If we examine man himself, we might begin to think that man is God himself. You get it? So yeah.
Right.
So,
or at least has like the potential to be like how people say man is using 10% of his brain. We're like a god. If we were using 100% of your brain, you'd be like godlike.
Of course. In philosophy of man, you understand that the uniqueness of man cannot be overemphasized. They say rationality, which is reasoning, is what differentiates the human person from from other creatures. Even if monkeys can, actually think to a reasonable extent, but to speak of complex reasoning, complicated reasoning, it is man that has the ability to do that. So the question is, where does this reason come from? That is the big question. We know the reason man is able to control this world. The reason he's able to control this world is because he has something in him, which is reasoning. That is the power of thoughts that is already in him, which differentiates him from other animals. You know, when you take a man and you take an animal, let's say two of them are 20 years old, you examine their activities, their actions, you cannot but agree that there is something in man that the other animals they do not have. So, but the bigger question is, where does this reason come from? This question has bedeviled the entire intellectual community for a very long time. Where does reason come from? It is the failure to find answer to this question that have led many people to resort to the issue of God. You know, they say, you know, when you study Thomas Aquinas' philosophy, where he spoke about the origin of God, when he was trying to explain the origin of God, you know, like when you said the God is the unmoved mover. When you roll a ball, that ball is rolling. The person that kicked that ball first from the beginning, before that ball touches everybody's leg, that person is the person that starts the movement. You understand? So, and then if you say God does not exist, there will be a kind of infinite regression of that movement. So at the end of the day, there must be a source. There must be beginning, you know, of everything. So that is why people believe that it is God, you know, that is behind, that created man to be this powerful. But whether or not this is true, no matter how we deliberate about this, we can only find out after we die. You know. So,
Well, there's been some weird tests. So I was thinking about like all the things Americans did besides trying to like build infrastructure in Africa. You know, one of them was Nim Chimpsky. Have you heard of Nim Chimpsky?
not
In
really.
the 70s, man, Americans with lots of money, they were trying all kinds of things. They took a chimpanzee and they tried to raise it as a human being, doing the dishes, making them wear clothing, living in a suburban house, just like Marilyn Monroe, kind of like this kind of, you know, mind control to see what would happen. And we've done a lot of other things too. I think it's called Project X with Chimp Broderick. Is that right? This is the movie that came out in 1987. True story. They took a bunch of chimps and then they trained them to fly fighter jets for the United States Air Force, because chimps have a really great ability to like pick up on, you know, if you put like 30 or 40 dots on a screen and then you turn the screen black, a chimpanzee can remember where those dots were in which order. Like you could put numbers on a screen and they could remember them. They have really great total recall, basically. So there's a lot of really interesting experiments that they did trying to uplift animals. There's even the Costco coconut water slavery situation where Costco is a food store and they had to stop selling coconut milk because the coconut milk was made with monkeys. They would they had enslaved the monkeys. They would give them fruit and alcohol and cigarettes if they brought the coconuts down. So they were training them to bring coconuts. And now there's all these out of work monkeys that know how to like steal, and they're like breaking into cars and things like that. So it's interesting to me because there are a lot of animals that if we're given them like squid's another example. If squid lived more than 18 months, they would be as intelligent as people. And dolphins and whales have super advanced hierarchies. They just can't use their hands, right? So, I mean, the idea of intelligent species with AI, we're talking to animals now. We have AI that can translate not just English to African tribal dialects. They can translate those sounds of orcas and sperm whales, and you know, by understanding what they're saying, we're about to break through this other level of what it means to be able to be reasoning. Like, what does it mean to be a dolphin that reasons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking about that idea of like, what is that spark in humanity? Have we misunderstood? Is it something that we're supposed to share and spread with other animals or something? Or, you know, is it really that we are essentially gods because we are so different than these other animals? Like, how different
what
really are we?
what is in man cannot be cannot be everything that is in man, the power of reasoning, the power of thought, it cannot be, transferred or cannot be given to animal just like that because it is inherent in man. It is inherent in man, and it is man that has that capacity to carry that power of reasoning that he has already. So no matter the artificial method that we try to, make animals, transform them into becoming humans, I even hear stories of scientists trying to interbreed,
Oh,
you
right,
know,
yeah. The chimpanzee,
animals.
the Russians did that, yeah.
It's a crazy thing, but I still think that they can never arrive at the original man, you know. So what is a man is original.
Just
And
so everyone knows what you're talking about and that it's real, there really was a Soviet experiment from Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov in the 1920s where the Soviet Union tried to breed humanzees, where they wanted to hybridize humans with chimpanzees. No joke, really exists.
you can imagine how far man curiosity have taken man to,
Yeah, I mean,
So
but I mean, so the point is, like, there really does seem to be something so different about us. We're not
yeah,
just like another animal.
yeah, we are not just so that is where faith come in. That is where religion come in because even science has been able to answer some of the things, So that is why people believe that it is God that masterminded everything the way it is. It cannot be something that happened capriciously or by accident. It has been orchestrated by a very intelligent being beyond this world. So,
Right. You'd even think that there'd be like the potential for a species to reach this level in an atheist paradigm, then it would be far more probable for other species to reach the same level, right? That's like the idea. If dolphins, for instance, were communicating at least similarly reasoning like humans, that changes everything because then there's multiple species on one world that are doing that. Right now, it's literally just us that we know of, which, I mean, as far, and I'm like pretty open-minded about whales, but it still doesn't seem the same as what we do.
it doesn't. That is one of the arguments against evolution,
Right.
because if you say that humans evolved from animals like ape, chimpanzee, and all that, and we have been living all these years, we have never seen a further evolution that have taken place. So that alone can discredit the evolution theory, because I believe that humans, in a way, we are evolving. Yeah, I can say that. But what about other animals? They are not. They are not.
Right.
But we are evolving. But I've never seen a monkey that evolved from being a monkey to a chimpanzee or to something like man. But I can tell you for sure that we humans, we are evolving. And especially the Americans and the Europeans, they are evolving faster than we Africans. Because when you look at the shape, the face of an African and the face of a European, I'm not trying to be a racist against myself, but you can see that there is a deliberate act by the scientists to breed beautiful human beings into this world. Sometimes there is a deliberate act by scientists, by doctors, to breed, beautiful human beings into this world.
Right. I actually think it is interesting. People don't think about it, but the way that socioeconomics opened it up for people. I mean, people marrying based on who they find attractive, is that not obviously a new thing? Like, obviously, people for thousands of years were marrying based on other things than who they liked or who they thought were attractive. Like, that wasn't the main reason that they were getting married for most of human history. So we have a very strange paradigm that's emerged after like the French Revolution. I agree. And people cut their noses off their faces in the West, right? Like, we have like the craziest amount of plastic surgery too. So it's like, You know,
Yeah.
every kid will get braces, right? You know, the whole thing. Yeah.
I was talking with my friend some time ago, and he said to me that our fathers, if you look at the olden days picture, like the picture that was taken in the olden days by our fathers here in Africa, if you look at the shape of their face and everything, it's as if we in this generation we are more handsome and more attractive than them.
Yeah, I
And
think a
and
lot of people are noticing that like the next generations are prettier. Even, you know, I'm sure you
yeah,
feel like you're handsome compared to like maybe your
my
grandfather or
father,
something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that is due to a, a kind of intelligent interbreeding of people. Like when you see a beautiful girl, you marry her, and from there you have a beautiful son, you have a beautiful daughter, and all that. And with so many, cosmetics and so many things that scientists have done, to improve on the human body and everything. In fact, like you said, people even go as far as changing the shape of their nose these days.
Right.
Yeah, I know of somebody who have done that here in Nigeria too. The nose is very wide, so she decided to, slimline it to make it, pointed like
I'm
this.
always concerned with that because I think the thing that's funny is like I have like a nose that looks like kind of like Roman, so like I don't know if it's exactly the right nose, but there's a lot of statues like it that make me like my nose. But I feel like, you know,
Yeah,
if I had your nose, I'd love that nose too. So it's kind of a weird situation because people see stuff in the media. I hate to be like cliche, but it's like the
yeah.
Barbie. It's like the Barbie thing. Like you play with a little blonde white Barbie. You're like, why is that not me? Now we have all these trans dudes, you know. So I don't know. Could be wrong.
It's crazy. This is the beginning of the civilization. We are yet to experience more.
Yeah.
We are getting somewhere.
I kind of like the things that you're forced to endure, though. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like people that are like don't like to, you know, when you ask somebody what's your name and what's your birthday and where you're from, those are not your choices. You know, I'm not always
Of
asking
course,
you like, what did you do with your life? Like, what did you choose? What's your dream? I do that sometimes, but a lot of my questions are like, where were you forced?
that's a better.
When were you forced out of the womb? Where did it happen to you? And like, what did they dead name you as? You know, what did your parents call that incident, that accident that was your life? All right, like I want to know that part before I worry about you know, the choices you made sometimes, which I think people get upset about because they want it to be all about choice.
Your voice is breaking. I can barely hear you. I think there is
Oh,
network problem.
yeah,
Can you
I
hear
see
me?
you're frozen. I hear you. Yeah, you're back. It worked out. That's cool.
Yeah, can
Uh,
hear you. It's clear now.
well, I do think that here I'll wait in case the signal's going back. Can you hear me still?
It's good. I can't hear you well.
Here,
Can't
maybe
hear you well, unfortunately.
maybe turn off your camera for a second. See if that
Maybe,
helps.
yeah. Let me.
Yeah, maybe if you turn off the camera, then you just have the microphone on, it'll probably work. Nigeria, folks. They got brilliant people in Nigeria that just don't have any electricity. And he has to use lights at night. Well, I guess he's let's take another Africast for a second there.
Africast, you know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. You can't choose your hand to force the sun to set. You cannot compare the living with the dead. Africast, you are welcome. Abiza, choose you Africa. Africast, are welcome. Africast, you know who you love, but you can't know who loves you. You can't use your hand to force the sun to set. You cannot compare the living with the dead. Africast, Africast, Africast. I wake up, Abiza, choose you Africa. Africast, I wake up. Everybody, Africast, Africast. What an old man sees while lying down, a young man can never see. Even when he climbs up in a tree. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth. Until lions have their own historians, accounts of the hunt will always celebrate the hunter. Africast, Africast, I wake up, Abiza, choose you Africa. Africast, I wake up. Everybody, Africast, Africast. While lying down, a young man can never see. Even when he climbs up in a tree. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth. Until lions have their own historians, accounts of the hunt will always celebrate the hunter. Africast, Africast, I wake up, Abiza, choose you Africa. Africast, I wake up. Everybody, Africast, Africast. While lying down, a young man can never see. Even when he climbs up in a tree. Water may cover the footprints on the ground, but it does not cover the words of the mouth. The lions have their own historians, accounts of the hunt will always celebrate the hunter. Africast, Africast, I wake up, Abiza, choose you Africa. Africast, I wake up. Everybody, Africast, Africast.
That was pretty cool. Well, I think Abiza's battery died. And so, if anybody would like to help Abiza, let's send him some batteries, a solar panel, a little stand from AliExpress that he can hold his light on or something like that. That would be really cool. This has been Africast. We're going to keep talking to people in Africa, particularly Nigeria, and I hope you enjoyed our wonderful conversation with Ibrahim Abiza, because bro, like, come on, he's brilliant, he's amazing, right? Like, cool guy. All right, that was fun for me. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care. See you later tonight on Sync Tank. Beware.